What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikon. And once again, we on 910 Sports TV. First and foremost, I got to thank God for this opportunity because without him, there'll be no us. Next, I got to introduce my man to the right of me, Mr. Fisherman himself, want to do this next show on the boat and the whole 9 yards. Coach Lamont T. Goins. What's going on, brother?
Hey, you know, one thing we got to do, baby, as hard as it's raining, we just got to wear the hook, and I'm so glad to be on with everybody tonight, and I'm just looking forward to another dynamic show.
Okay, and then we got my other brother from another mother, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Cowboy fan himself. You talk about Dak if you want to, he might jump out the screen on you. We got Jacob the Great. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, another day to get it right. Glad to be the land of the living. Let's go.
All right. So go ahead and introduce this young man, this scholar that we got on here tonight. It look like I read his bio. Look like he did everything but doggone part the Red Sea. So go ahead and introduce this man so we can get this thing going.
Man, we have none other than Mr. Kyle Adams, man. Just a little bit about him, man. A coach, athletic director, author, and a motivational speaker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, brothers. I'm really excited to be on with you tonight. Been watching the work you've been doing, and really honored that you would think me worthy of being on this platform. It's good to be with you, brothers.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So before we get into, the dynamic journey of Mr. Kyle Adams, who is Kyle Adams?
Who is Kyle Adams? I'd like to say I believe that I'm a adder of value. I really look at my mission on this planet is to add value to others. I really feel compelled to help people in whatever way I can, whatever ways that God has allowed me to move, in whatever light He shined through me. I consistently want to use it to elevate others. I've been grateful to have a lot of different experiences, which allow me to minister to a lot of different people. So, first and foremost, I'm a father. I have a 13-year-old son named Mason Xavier, who I'm extremely proud of. I consider myself an educator. I consider myself an advocate. I consider myself a human being, somebody trying to figure out this thing called humanity that we all deal with every day. So I just been blessed to have a lot of really unique experiences, and they've allowed me to help others. So.
All right. So let's jump into it. Where did this journey start for you as?
Where did this journey start? I would have to say a great influence on my journey was being an undergrad at Cheyney, being on the campus of a historically Black college and university that my grandmother attended. My grandmother is a member of the class of 1945. But to be in an environment where I was lifted and encouraged and inspired by people who looked like me, who believed in my genius, who believed in cultivating the genius in all those young people on that campus. It really inspired me to want to be able to provide that type of same experience for others. When I think about just my desire to want to help people and to want to add value to people, to help people to live the meaningful lives that they want, to have the type of experiences they want, I would have to say all that began for me at Cheyney. I had a resident director. His name was Donzel Tiller. He's one of my fraternity brothers, who had a huge influence on my life. And I think that those type of experiences that we have with people in those environments, they really shift our lives, because those people want nothing from us but to see us be ourselves, our greatest selves. Um, and that excited me to be in that type of environment, and to not just see people like Mr. Tiller have that impact on me, but on so many different other people, right? Not just men, young women, other professionals. Um, so imagine being in an environment where there are a lot of different adults and people who work and serve at the university, that's their mission. They're trying to lift people. Um, and again, for me to be in an environment like that had a huge influence on my life and the man uh, that I wanted to be, and how I wanted to use my superpower to help and serve humanity.
Okay, so in embracing the fact that your grandmother went to Cheyney, how did you embrace that fact? And was there any pressure on you?
No, I don't think it was any pressure on me. I think it just was a level of connection. It made me proud uh, to know that I went to my grandmother's school. Um, I remember vividly my graduation. When I graduated, my grandmother was there,
Wow.
you know, and for her to, I know she hadn't been back on campus in a long time, but for her to have an opportunity to see me receive my degree, um, meant a great deal to me. Like knowing that I walked the same campus. It's crazy. I was actually on campus today. I was out that way today, and to walk that campus, I get emotional. Um, and 2 years ago, I got an opportunity to speak at graduation, and on our historical quad, and I had my grandmother's degree with me, and I held it up and showed it to the graduates during my speech. Um, Whenever I've had an opportunity to speak at Cheyney in ways like that, I've always taken my grandmother with me. Her degree has always been with me. Um, so I don't know if I wouldn't say that there was any pressure. I feel like it was more an honor. Um, just really feeling honored to be able to walk the same historic ground that one of my ancestors did, one of my nana, you know, to walk that same ground that my nana did meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me.
Okay, Coach Goins, over to you, my brother.
All right, so listen, Dr. Adams, man, we certainly appreciate your time and effort, and just like the guys said at the beginning of the show, just tremendous bio, and I think all four of us that's on this call, we're blessed to have praying grandmothers, and if we did not, we would not be able to be on this show tonight. So hats off to all of our grandmothers, and continue to be a blessing over us. So in that, I want to kind of get into the HBCU as relates from a coaching standpoint. What do you think as a HBU coach that is, I want to say Division 1 mid major? Why do you think so many coaches don't have the opportunity, even though we like to keep them at the HBCUs? But when I really think about it, outside, how do they not able to tap in and get to that next level job? It seems like a lot of times, and I speak of like Lavelle Moulton and some of the guys I know in that rank that has won championships, and that's what it's about, and he's done a phenomenal career, not just Coach Moten, but so many others. And it seems like there's just a cap. Can you speak to that?
See, I don't know if I view it in that way. And you speak of Lavelle Moten. One of the greatest experiences in my coaching career was I had an opportunity to coach women's basketball at North Carolina Central, and so I got an opportunity to sit in on Lavelle's practices. Lavelle is an unbelievable basketball mind, unbelievable on the practice floor, in his preparation. Um, you can see why Lavelle consistently, his program has been able to have the success that they've had. Um, I put him up there with anyone um, out there coaching, but I think I push back when people say, speak to those terms, because I feel like that the jobs at our institutions are some of the best jobs in the country, for us, right? And thinking about having an opportunity to directly influence young people that look like you, who, we know the vast majority of the student athletes that play college sports will not play professional sports. So we have a far greater opportunity to influence who they become as fathers, mothers, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, engineers, all those different things. We have a greater opportunity to influence and impact that than we do if they're going to become professional athletes or not. So I had never looked at majority, when you say making it to the next level, I take great honor in having said that I've coached at 5 HBCUs. I've coached at majority institutions also, but my greatest honor and impact has come walking the campus and seeing young people who've come from the same communities that I have, who are trying to figure out a way to change the trajectory of their family for generations to come. That inspired me and excited me every day I walked on the campus, because I always viewed it as I wasn't just coaching those. I wasn't just there for those kids that were on my team. I was there to impact every young person that walked on that campus. I wanted to be an influence. My office door was open to everybody on that campus. I wanted, if there was a way that I could help, a young person who had nothing to do with women's basketball or men's basketball, I wanted to be willing to do it. And I think our institutions provide that type of environment where we're able to love up on all those kids on that campus, not just the cohort of kids we coach. And I think, and I know that at those other levels, you got to be really focused on your cohort, right? There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of pressure involved. There's a lot that, there's a lot that goes into you being at those institutions. But to your question directly, and I think that we're seeing, as we're seeing a lot of what's going on in the country right now, there's a desire and a push to really limit Black leadership. And I think about it in the lens of football, right? When you look at college football, when you look at it in ways of the NFL, right? I think there's something to be said about, like, I think we'll really appreciate who Mike Tomlin was a lot more now that he's gone, right? And what I mean by that is there's something to be said about a man of color leading millionaires, people who have resources that can influence communities and can influence businesses and can influence different areas of society, right? I think there's something to be said about that, and a desire to not have men of color in those type of positions where they have that level of influence. I see it in that football league. I see it in college sports as well. I don't think it's by accident that we don't see more men of color leading college football programs. In 2023, I spoke at I was working as a deputy director of athletics at Delaware State, and I got an opportunity to speak at Media Day. They had a men's panel during Media Day, and it was different teams, different football teams there, as well as the 6 head coaches of the MEAC schools. And as I sat on that panel, I really thought to myself that these men, they may not realize it, but they have some of the most important jobs in college football, right? And you can say that, it may be great to coach at a Michigan or Ohio State, or wherever. But to have an opportunity to work and coach and lead young people at one of these 6 institutions, you're really growing and developing and shaping the next generation of leadership in our communities. All right. I don't know, again, if any of those young men that play on those teams will become professional athletes, but I know that they'll have an opportunity to gain a degree and to be nurtured and developed and grown in an environment that's built specifically for their growth and development, right? And how does that impact our communities? How does that impact our neighborhoods? How does that impact our families? And to me, that's more important than if you're able to go play on Sunday, right? So I truly value the opportunities that our coaches have to work and coach at our institutions. I don't think that our schools are something to run from. I think that they provide profound opportunities to really help and shape the next generation of leadership in our community.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. I appreciate
I
appreciate
appreciate
that.
the question.
No. Oh
Appreciate
no. I
that.
mean, and again, I didn't want to insinuate that it is definitely not valued there. It just seems like when those coaches get nods, either they didn't play for a program at, like you said, a Michigan, or if they played at Duke, they may get a look at Duke. If they played at Carolina, like Hubert Davis, prime example,
Right.
would he ever get out? Just like how they did Jerry Stackhouse. Stackhouse's name never came involved, even though he was coach of the year when he was at Vanderbilt,
Right.
and so that's what, just like with HBC, it's almost like if they don't play at the big time schools, they don't even get viewed. So I certainly appreciate that insight.
Well, I'd ask you to think about this, right? And I know you guys follow college football, right? We think about draft day, right? Think about how many HBCU players end up playing in the NFL, but we never see an HBCU player get their name called, walk up, shake Roger Goodell's hand, give him a hug. That image, that's not an image that they want people to see. Because if you see that, right? Because the best players at HBCUs end up playing in that league via free agency and training camp deals, right? But you don't see the image of them getting drafted. And I think that there's something to that, right? I think, one, the people that are in those front offices doing the drafting, the general managers, the scouts, where did they go to school, right? It's a part of a machine that continues to recycle itself. But I think that there's something to be said about those images and what they mean and what they build in people's subconscious. They don't want, because if you see a Darius Rich get drafted and see the image of him shaking Roger Goodell's hand, that says something in the minds of parents that, oh, our kids don't have to go to those schools to make it. See, they still have to have us believe that the only way that they can make it to that level is through those institutions. And I think that that's, you also see that in coaching.
Excellent. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Ikon, man, I see you ready for that pick and roll, brother.
Can y'all hear me?
I got you now.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So well, Randy Page got a question. He said, what have you learned about yourself from coaching and impacting your student athletes?
I would say the greatest thing I learned is that I have to continue to grow myself, right? It's not, I think in coaching, we can always look at ourselves as being the person in the position of authority and instruction, right? But the greatest thing I believed I learned was I need to constantly be assessing myself. What are the areas that I need to grow in? What am I not developing in, right? Because if I'm not growing, as the person in the position of leadership, they're not growing. So what am I reading? You know, when I was coaching, I would, you know, I've always been a reader, but I was reading. I would go watch other coaches practice. I would go to clinics. I would get on the phone with coaches if I had questions. Anything that I could do to grow myself, to be able to provide a better experience for the young people I was coaching, I was willing to do it. And I think I believe that we're in a state where a lot of people want, just give me the best players, right? I'm a great coach because I got the best players. And I think there's something to that, but I also think, when you don't always have the best players, how can you get there? How can you still have success? And a lot of times, to me, that was based on how I needed to grow and develop and advance myself to be able to make the best use of the group that I have, right? I might want to, as a coach, I was a really big dribble drive offense coach, right? I would go to clinics and studied a lot about the dribble drive offense. But if I didn't have a team that could run that, right, and I could try to beat it into them as much as I want. When do I take a step back and say, this isn't what they do well? I need to find something. I need to learn something that can help them, to put them in the best position to be successful. And I don't think coaches are always willing to adapt in that way, right? I always, and I want to do it in the other areas of my life also. It's easy to say they can't do this, they can't do that. How can I shape? How can I change? How can I adapt? How can I learn something to help them? It's too easy to say what kids can't do, and they're not good at this, they're not good at that. Then it's beholden on you as the educator, as the leader, to find something that they can do well. And I've always taken great power in that. And in turn, I think it shifts the mindset of those that you're coaching, right? Because it doesn't give them, I can't do this, I can't do that. No, it makes them have to operate in their genius and think of different ways to get to their desired outcome. So I think that's a great question, but that would be what I would feel I've learned. The greatest thing I've learned is really being able to assess myself and how I need to grow and develop for the betterment of those that I work with and serve.
Well, I want to say this to piggyback what y'all said earlier about the grandmothers. I was raised by a grandmother, and when they say a woman can't raise a man to be a man, well, she did a hell of a job of basically showing me and telling me and just showing me the little things of what a man's supposed to do. You know what I mean? And how to move and how to operate. And my uncle was a politician. So the one thing my grandmother always taught me that stuck with me is always be able to adapt to the room. So no matter what you're doing, be able to hold a conversation with I don't care if it's an older white man, I don't care if it's a guy in the hood, I don't care if it's whoever it is, being able to learn to be able to adapt. And I give you an example of how astute she was, because when she was, my granddad was stationed over in Japan. He was in the military. My grandmother, this 5'1", 5'2" black lady, taught the white wives over there how to have proper table etiquette. Now you think about this is a black lady teaching white women in the 50s, the 40s and 50s, how to basically what salad fork to use, what spoon, what's the soup spoon, where all the forks and knives and everything's supposed to go on the table. She was the one, like even when we were growing up, when you ate, you couldn't put your elbows on the table. You had to put your forearm and you know all that kind of little stuff she taught us, just on that level. So, and even like when we spoke to people, if I'm speaking to an older person, I can't just say, hello, Mr. Johnson or Miss Johnson. I had to say, hello, good morning, Mr. Johnson, how are you doing? Good afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Whatever time of day, that's how she was. And if you spoke broken English, you get corrected on the spot. You know what I'm saying? And so and my grandmother never went to never went to college. My grandma never even learned how to drive. She never, you know what I'm saying? And she lived to be 87 years old. Never learned how to drive and never went to college. But she was a very smart and educated woman because she studied herself approved. You know, when they say in church, you study yourself approved. When she studied herself approved to be able to deal with certain things. So to me, I've never looked at life as if saying I can't do something that I really want to do. If I want to do something, I'm gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to piggyback off of that.
If you would, and I'm remiss because I didn't do it, and I usually do it when I speak. My grandmother's name was Mildred Frances Holden Vaughn. I'd ask you to elevate your grandmother's name as an ancestor. What was her name?
Her name her name was Frances Person Jones.
Okay.
So that was her name. You know what I mean?
I appreciate you sharing that. You took me back because those are the values that I was raised with. My father used to smack me up my head if I put my elbows on the table. Like I remember that vividly as a child. But a lot of those different things that we were taught in our childhood by our parents and our grandparents, you know, and we can go into a ton of things and reasons why we don't see those same things in our homes today. But those are things that stick with me and stay with me as a child. I appreciate you sharing about your grandmother, Miss Frances. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us with your grandmother's experiences too. So this is what I wanted to ask you is, so when I was reading your bio and you talked about how you kind of try to teach people and have the leadership skills, and you really don't focus on one thing or another, or push anything on people. So how kind of talk about the tools that you use if you see a student that needs to maybe hone in more on their leadership skills, or maybe do a little bit more when it comes to, you know, educational wise, or just the way they're moving. What do you do as far as different tools that you can share with us that you use when you see a student maybe need that extra push, or need something that you see something special in them that they need to kind of tap into?
That's a great question. I think when I was younger in my leadership journey, I think sometimes we can think we have all the answers, right? And we feel compelled to give those answers, right? And like to fix people. And as I've continued on in this journey, I've learned to listen a lot more, right? To listen and to watch. And I think a lot of times when we work with young people, we want to fix everything for them. I think sometimes it's important for us to just listen and help them to come into their own answers, right? I believe that there is genius in every person, right? It's important for me to help young people to start to be able to see that genius in themselves. And I think a lot of that comes from, and if you gentlemen think about this, negativity, right? Negativity, we can find negativity anywhere. We can pick up the phone and call somebody, and the conversation can shift, and you're talking about someone else in a negative way. Like negativity is all around us, right? But we have to be really intentional about connecting to positivity and going after positive environments and going after positive people. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that most people have a negative image of themselves to begin with, right? And a lot of young people do. They don't think that they deserve this. They don't think that they can have this. They're not worthy of it. They don't look good enough. They weren't born at, you know, there's all these different things that give them a negative image of themselves. And we have to be in a mode of really helping them to connect to seeing a positive image of themselves. So a lot of my interaction with people is really about helping them to see the best qualities of themselves, helping them to learn about the positive things in their lives, and being intentional and recognizing the difference between negative and positive environments, negative and positive people, right? And they say, you know, if you want to show a person their life, show them the 5 people they spend the most time around. I believe that there's truth to that.
Absolutely.
Right. So we really have to be intentional about helping people to organically and ruthlessly like curate the environments that they want to be in. You can't say that you want positive outcomes in your life and you spend time around negative people. You spend time in negative environments. Like, you've got to really take account. And that, again, that's on me. That's not, nobody else has done that. You know what I mean? Donald Trump didn't do it. Like, that's on me to put myself in a position and around people that can help get me to the places that I choose and desire to be at. So I think for me, a lot of it's listening and watching. You know, they say fools rush in, right? And I know when I was younger, I always wanted to rush to fix. I always wanted to rush to fix. And it wasn't from a place of malice or ego. It was just wanting to help people and feeling like I could help them. But I found that if I take more time to watch, listen, I think it's important. The other thing I think that we take for granted is being able to operate in a spirit of grace, right? People make mistakes, right? And you work with kids are going to be nasty to each other. They're going to treat each other wrong. I coach women the last 10 years of my career, and women sometimes, you know, women on a team sometimes don't like each other because they just don't like each other. They don't know why they don't like each other, right? They're going to say bad things about one another. They're going to do things to one another, and that's all people. But when we operate in a level of grace, we recognize that we do the same things. And we want people to forgive us when we make mistakes, when we have challenges, right? Who are we to hold grudges and to hold people to a standard that we don't want others to hold ourselves to, right? And I think that's extremely important when you're building teams, because in sports, you're constantly having mistakes. How do we get to the next, right? How do we not let that mistake define us? And how do we get over that? How do we come back together, regardless of how we've hurt one another? How do we get back together? And I recognize your humanity and you recognize mine, and we're able to move forward together and still have success. So I think, I think grace is another huge part of what I really want young people, and all people, all the groups that I work with, right? That us having and operating in a spirit of grace allows us to be able to still move forward together, despite how we may have hurt one another, as human beings do.
Right.
Well, I wanted to say this before I threw it back to Jacob, and I want all the brothers to kind of chime in on this. So what you saying, I agree 100%, because what the problem is that it's like, if you look at our show, we're not messy. We don't come on acting like Charlemagne or Wendy Williams or Stephen A. Smith or Jerry Springer. So we may get minimum viewership than some of the people that you see online every day acting up. So when young people, when they see people like men like yourself that come on here educated, you know, you got a million years worth of experience, but you're not on here acting like Charleston White. If you was on here talking like Charleston White or something, then you know, oh well, we got to jump on, we got to go watch, we got to see Dr. Kyle Adams, we got to go watch him because we don't know what he gonna say. And so the young people, like I grew up, my uncle was a politician. My uncle was the longest running black county manager in Mecklenburg County, over 20 something years. And me growing up, I'm seeing everybody else in the hood. I'm seeing the drug dealers. I'm seeing all the other people. And I'm not even looking at him. I'm not focused on him because I'm not even understanding what that is over there. I just know he's a county manager. I don't even understand the gravity of something that this man is in the history books for what he did and what he pulled off. It was to the point where they actually they basically forced him out of his position because they got tired of seeing this black man running this city and running it very well by you, because he's the one that pretty much made Charlotte Hornets be able to have a team, to lose team and bring it back. You know what I'm saying? That was on his watch. That and the Hornet and the Carolina Panthers, all that was on his watch. You know what I'm saying? So I just say that to say this, is that the main problem with our young black people is that we're looking at the wrong people as our heroes instead of looking at people like yourself who's actually in the trenches when it comes to educating them the right way and helping them get a career, and not just because everybody can't be an athlete. I've seen a thing where it was like it's been 4,000 basketball players. There's 8 billion people in the world. It's only been 4,000 NBA basketball players. So do the math on that. But anyway, Jake, any of y'all can jump in, but I just wanted to just say that.
No, I'll jump in on that, and that's a great example. And just for Dr. Adams' knowledge is,
I gotta correct you, brothers. I haven't earned my doctorate yet. Not yet.
okay. All right.
I'm
So
I'm not there yet.
all right. So for Mr. Adams is Ikon and I are from the same hometown.
Okay.
I'm older than he is, and my first cousin and his uncle Harry Jones were like best friends growing up. So I knew his uncle quite well. And as a young black man, when Harry Jones came to town, everybody listened because I knew the impact that he was making in Mecklenburg County. I knew the impact that he had as city manager in Mecklenburg County. Phenomenal career. But like I said, when he came home, it was like royalty came to Southern Pines, just because. And again, and I think that's what happens a lot of times in black communities now is, and Ikon, he's right. A lot of times we want to go to social media and not realize who is in the streets, what roots do they have, how did they tap in, how do they know that, you know, Mr. Adams is here, let me go see him, and versus I got to get on television. No, it may be a family member that I can tap into. It may be a pastor, it may be a local coach. I don't have to go to the social media to get their feed. And I think that's what that may be hurting us at the grassroots level.
I'd agree with both you gentlemen. I think that they're you know, and I'm one of the belief that nothing is by accident. The images that are put in front of our children are by design, right? I'm of an age. I'll celebrate my 53rd birthday next month. I remember my childhood, and the people that I was learning about in school were a Malcolm X, were a Dr. King, were Benjamin Mays, were those are the people that I looked up to and aspired to be like. And I think that there are images, to your point, that are placed in front of our young people to get them off that track, right? To not look at those people who have done so much to uplift and elevate our people and our communities. You know, we look at professional athletes as those people. We look at entertainers as those people. And I think that we have to have that. That's why the work that you all are doing is so important. Because this is media that someone, a parent may get and share with their child, that teachers may get and share with their students. And you don't know how that may impact that young person. I think that I look at it as we're at war, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Good.
this is a level of we're in form of combat, and we have to be just as combative and assertive in how we're sharing information as much as these other entities are, right? And how we're getting this information in front of people, how we're getting this media in front of people. The work that you all do, how you're able to take it, package it, sound bites, make it into reels or shorts, right? In ways that young people can process it. That's a form of combat, because we all know that they have, these entities that are trying to push the negativity to our young people. Their machine is much bigger than ours. But we can't quit. We can't stop. I can't believe that we can't make these breakthroughs. And you don't know how that one piece of information can shift someone's mind and their thought. I have to say to you brothers, like, I'm always honored and I love connecting with people from North Carolina. A lot of the things that I've been able to do started and stemmed from my experience in Durham when I was coaching at Central, and how I just saw a community of people that were invested in one another. Like I saw a community, or like people in Durham, Black people in Durham were really, not to say were, but I saw them as people who were excited about helping other people grow and develop. If somebody's starting a business over here, they crowdfunding and finding ways to help you build your business, right? I just saw I saw a different spirit. I'm originally from Philadelphia, but what I saw and experienced during my time in North Carolina changed my life. And I don't know if I write a book. I don't know if I start a business. I don't know if I start a podcast. I don't know if I do any of these entrepreneurial things and creative things I've been able to do, if not for my time in North Carolina in Durham. So I want to salute you, brothers. Listening to you talk about your experiences in that state is something special to me about the state of North Carolina and the people who live there. So.
Okay, Ikon, let me say this to this brother right here now.
Okay.
I'm gonna say something to you, Mr. Adam, and you might want to use it as a dialogue on one of your next speaking engagements. But as I read your bio, I came up with the 4 P's. Purpose, passion, perspective, and power. And so, however you want to, dice it up and use it in one of your dialogues, go right ahead. But
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You let me trademark that real quick before you get on. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's just like a Cowboy fan wants you to use something he said.
I
That's like a Cowboy fan.
He might have got a text message from Jared Jones.
But man, back to our kids, man. Our kids go through war on the inside and in their mind. They go through emotional war. They go through mental war. They go through spiritual warfare, and then they also go through a physical war because there's so many additives and preservatives in the food. What they eat can really make them have an attitude just for no reason. And so, with you being in that leadership and you teaching kids and you coaching kids, man, you got a journey on your hands, and man. And I just want to say, that I commend you for that. And before we close out, I want you to introduce your book and tell us, the backstory and the storyline of your book and why did you feel the need to write this book?
I at first I need to say something, speak to something that you said that I think is overlooked when we talk about the different uh, issues that are facing our young people, but also our community. Um, you talked about the physical warfare and our nutrition, um, and you are spot on because uh, that's a huge area of assault that's on us as a people, right? And the choices that we make. It's funny you talk about it. Um, you know, I think a lot about, like, when I was younger, I was able, I like Twizzlers, I like gummy bears. I can't be eating that stuff anymore. You know what I mean? Like, looking at, we all grew up eating fried foods, right?
Mm.
And I never ate a lot of fried foods. Um, but recognizing there are things that we have to stop. Like, we can't continue to eat those things, and especially for our young people, um, and getting them to understand the importance of, um, like, what they put in their body will impact how long they live. Like, full stop. And if you want to live a long, positive, fruitful life, you got to really discern what it is you're putting in your body. So I didn't want to miss that. Like, that was important. You speaking of that is extremely important, and we need to have more conversations um, about our nutrition. Like, just as much as, this month is mental health, mental health awareness month. Like, we need to be talking about Black nutrition and what we're
Mm.
putting in our bodies, and the food that we're consuming, and what options do we have in our neighborhoods around us, right? There's a reason why we're not able to get to the freshest fruits in some of the communities that we live in. But those aren't things that we regularly think about and have dedicated thought to. So I wanted to recognize, you bringing that to the conversation. Uh, my book, Discarding the Mask, the soul
Let-
sacrifice of a coach.
Before you get into your book, Miss Ab, let me say this. And,
Yes.
and the reason I said about nutrition, I've been juicing for about 4 months. Um, I was able to drop 51 pounds in 68 days, and I was a repeatedly Pepsi drinker, and I haven't
Ooh,
drunk a Pepsi. I haven't drunk a Pepsi in 4 months.
y'all need to do a podcast about that. You lost how much weight? And
51 pounds in 68 days.
wow, salute to you, sir.
Yeah, man. Cause with me being diabetic and having high blood pressure, I said, man, I got so much I want to accomplish on earth. I need to be able to leave a leave a footprint so somebody can use it as a blueprint. And so I got to change my healthy into a lifestyle that I live and one day I can speak about.
Right.
So that's that's why I did it, and now I got both of my brothers doing it as well. So we be doing it as the Three Musketeers.
Salute to you, brothers, man. That's huge, man. I commend you uh, on your dedication in doing that, man. I know that Pepsi thing is hard, man. I know a lot of people they love
Yeah,
a
man.
Pepsi.
Yeah, man. So, man, but we're gonna get back into your book. Sorry for interrupting you, but
No,
I
not
just
at
wanted
all.
to get that out.
No, not at all. Discarding the mask. And again, a lot of this started during my time in Durham. At that point, I had been coaching. Uh, I had been coaching for over 10 years, um, and coached a bunch of different places. Had kind of been all over the country, um, and I started to really think about Durham. Made me see myself as more than a coach, right? And I think you coaching is a profession that you have a great deal of like your tunnel vision. You're trying to get coaching jobs, like that's the only thing you want to do. That's the only thing that you're focused on. And you're made to believe that you have to have that level of focus to be successful at it. Like you can't have any outside distractions. You need to be constantly focused on coaching, on recruiting, on what it means to be a coach, studying film. And I think for a lot of coaches, it really limits them, right? Because most coaches, their careers end not on their terms, right? And when coaching ends for them, many aren't equipped to do anything else. They don't, because a lot of their identity is caught up in what they've done as a coach.
That's excellent.
And when that ends, they struggle, right? Because there's a level of security that you gain from, like, it's something to be, it does something for your ego to be called coach. There's a level of ego that you have to operate in the position of a coach. And when that ends, when people aren't responding to you in that same manner, when you don't have a team that you're leading, so to speak, you go through a level of identity foreclosure. And again, I just started to see myself as being able to do and be and create more, right, in and around coaching. And I wanted, and at that time I had experienced so much, man. I had been fired before. And I didn't look at being fired as a negative. I looked at it as, if you coach long enough, you're going to get fired. Like, it happens. I have a chapter in the book entitled Hired to be Fired. My last year at Cheyney, we got a new president, we got a new vice president, and he came into a meeting with the coaches. First thing he said to us as a room of coaches was, coaches are hired to be fired. And I looked at this man like he was like, that's what you have for us? In retrospect, I look back at it as some of the best information that anybody could have ever given me. Because again, coach, if you do this long enough, you're going to get let go. How you going to use that? Right? Are you going to look at it as a negative, or are you going to use it as a learning opportunity? Right? So I had started to really think about the different experiences that I had in coaching, right? Going on token interviews, like having a school bring you in, right? Just to be a token interview, to say they interviewed a Black person, right? I talk about it. I know, I don't know if I shared in the book. I do. I went on an interview to an Ivy League school, right? They bring me up. I'm sitting in a meeting space with the head coach. We're having a conversation. During the conversation, a young man walks in. He just come from a run. Doesn't introduce himself. Like, grabs a bottle of water out of a mini fridge, and he walks out. 2 weeks later, I see a press release, and that's the person that they hired for the job. So those type of experiences, things that I've experienced and seen throughout my career, I just think a lot of times we don't, and again, it comes from how we view ourselves. Our stories are important. you all have experienced things in your lives that people can benefit from. You've experienced high points, things that you've been successful at, and you've experienced failures, right? I've had great levels of success, and I've failed at a ton of things. And for me to keep those things to myself, I think would be it doesn't help others. And I wanted to use this book as an opportunity to really to do a couple things. I wanted coaches to see that they can be more than coaches. That they can create other things, that they can create value for themselves. Not just by the school logo that they have, right? Because so much of our identity when we're coaching is attached to a school logo. And when you lose that logo, again, you start to go through this level of identity foreclosure, because so much of my identity has been wrapped up in this logo. No, I bring the expertise and the experience and the knowledge and the genius to this logo. We make the logo what it is. And I don't think enough of our coaches today really understand and value that. I'll tell you guys, like, I used to go to the Final Four as a coach, right? Coaches from all over the country. And when you go and you meet new coaches, and you go to shake a coach's hand, they don't look at you in your face, in your eye when they shake your hand. They look at your logo. And then they treat you based on how they perceive the prestige of that logo. Right? And I would sit, I've always been a bit of a sociologist. I sit and watch people. And I would watch how coaches would treat each other. You might meet a young middle school coach. And, you're not giving them the same respect and appreciation and value for their humanity as you give the coach at North Carolina or at Duke or whatever of, the quote unquote blue blood institutions. And I watched that. And so I wanted coaches to recognize their value aside from having a logo, that they have so much more in them that they can create and build, right? The other thing is, how do you take those experiences, all these experiences that you've had, how do you take them and leverage them when you don't have that logo again, in the lens of coaches are hired to be fired, right? Because when you get fired, only thing you thinking about is, how can I get my next gig? How can I get my next job? And we never think about or lean into, wait a minute, how can I take advantage of these experiences that I've already had, right? I'm coaching. I'm not just coaching basketball. I'm providing leadership. I'm fundraising, right? I'm building practice plans. I'm building curriculum. I'm doing all these different things. I have a lot of different talents, but we don't look at ourselves in that way. And so that was really important to me, in really sharing about my experiences, but also allowing coaches to see that they can do and be more, and they can create more, and they can have more, and not to feel like they need to be boxed in. But yeah, that had a lot to do with why I chose to write.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us your time. We've learned a lot from, just hearing you talk, and you talk so astute. That's why I thought you was a doctor. So I know it's coming. You know what I mean? Because I'm still want to call you doctor, and you ain't one, because just I know I used bad English right then, but yeah, but that's just why I want to emphasize you ain't one, because you definitely on your way. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on, getting us your time, and we definitely gonna pray that book is a bestseller and the top on the shelf right side. We want it to be your book, of course, the Bible, and then your book right behind it. You know what I mean? Right there behind it. So just say the name of the book, and then we'll get up out of here.
The name of the book is Discarding the Mask: The Soul Sacrifices of a Coach. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it at my website, KyleAdamsUplift.com. And it's also on audiobook. You can find it on audiobook also. Before we go, I just feel compelled to really thank you, gentlemen, for tonight, to enter in conversation with you. I learned a great deal from you all tonight. I want to be able, please let me know what I can do to continue. I want to help share the work that you all are doing, because this is an important platform. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys on a Saturday night. Thank you.
Well, like we always tell everybody, if anybody that, would be interested in coming on, that we can interview them and get their story and get information for them, please send them our way, whether it's one of your students, one of your coaches, educators. We always looking to interview people, especially the ones that anybody, but especially the ones like yourself, who are the ones that's educating these young people. So we always want to get y'all story sometime the most, because you're the most important people. That's why we go after a lot of time coaches that come from smaller programs or smaller schools, because you're the ones that don't really get eyes and ears. Anybody can coach can interview a Coach K or Roy Williams and all these guys, and Bill Self and all of those guys. But people like yourself don't get these opportunities every day, and that's what we're here for.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And there's some people that I'm thinking of right now that I think would be great for your platform. Excellent. I'll make sure I share them.
Excellent. All right. I appreciate it. God bless you. And everybody have a wonderful and blessed week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good guy. Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.